All right. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. Again, this is week 2 of the Wright Weekly Sales Training Webinar. My name is Joel. I'm being joined by my team of coaches. I have Josh and Shelby. First, I have a couple slides I want to share with you guys, which I'm going to go through right now. Let's go ahead and start the screen sharing. All right, all right, all right. There we go. All right. Can you guys see my screen here?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, beautiful. So again, this is Right Light. RightLightSalesTraining.com is the website where you can go on and get all the new updates, look at all of our previous Zoom calls that we have on there. This is something, it's a passion of mine that I've been doing since roughly 2002 when I started sales training, when I was with a door-to-door sales training company. I'm going to introduce myself. I have a couple slides I'd like to share with everybody. Again, my name is Joel Wright. I'm the author of How to Sell More Better. I was on the Amazon top 10 bestsellers list for 3 weeks in a row for sales training, sales strategies, and techniques. I have 30 plus years of sales experience. Right out of high school, I got into door to door sales, which I'll go into a little bit briefly. But my book is basically a field manual from the trenches. It's everything that I learned doing door to door sales. And then subsequently afterwards, when I got into waiting tables, how to build rapport, how to read people, how to deal with different personality types. I poured my heart and soul into this book. Like I said, it was on the Amazon bestsellers list for 3 weeks in a row. So if you have a chance to check it out, please do so. I think you'll thoroughly get something from it. But again, 30 plus years in sales, a lot of sales training, sales coaching, leadership, mentoring. Sales is my passion and it's what I've been doing for a while. And I'd like to share that with everybody that I can. I'm joined by two coaches that are on my team. My first coach, this is Joshua Dodd, former corporate sales trainer for Verizon. Really good friend of mine. I've known him my entire life since our second grade class at Norwich Elementary School in Williamsburg, Virginia, with Miss Randall. So we go back. Him and his twin brother Jason, also a good friend of mine. But Josh is an absolute gem. Lucky to have him on as a coach, and I'm glad that he's able to share his expertise with everybody here on the call. Next, we have Mr. Shelby. When I got into finance and I started with the Hyman Brothers Group, he was the F&I corporate sales trainer for the Providence Group at the time. And I'd already done finance for about 6 months prior to that. But Shelby helped me refine all my skills, give me a lot of good sauce. And I think he's the reason for a lot of my success that I had coming up in the car industry and in the automotive world. So props to Shelby. Really glad and stoked that he could be part of our team as well. Just to give you guys a little bit of background about myself, again, my journey before college, while most of my peers were selecting which colleges they wanted to go to, I was pounding the pavement door to door sales. I was getting told no abundantly every day. I was getting kicked out of businesses. I took the road less traveled. And at 18, I decided that this was going to be the path that I would take, and it set as the foundation for the building blocks of what led to my entire sales career up until now. So, like I said, it's what's made me who I am, and it's what's taught me all the skills that I have. But doing the face-to-face, door-to-door sales, conversation by conversation, I learned how to connect, influence, and create trust, and more importantly than anything, build rapport with anybody that I was in front of. And I think rapport is one of the key to sales. And being good at building rapport is not something that can be taught. It can be taught, but it's something that comes naturally to you. And if it becomes natural, and then you can refine that skill and you can hone in on it, you can become a deadly, deadly salesperson. But this is really what I found my passion for training was doing door-to-door sales. And by the time I was 19, I had 34 employees. I had my own office slash warehouse in Virginia Beach. And the ongoing joke that I tell everybody is I couldn't buy a drink at the bar, but I could buy the whole bar. I was making on average, I think at the lowest end, 1,800 a week running this company. The most I made in one week was over $5,000. And that was by the age of 19. So again, this is kind of what served as the foundation for what led to my career right now. This is my book, How to Sell More Better. Again, Amazon bestseller list 3 weeks in a row. I will include the link when I send everybody the link to this video. If you have a chance, please check it out. I think anybody, whether you're a rookie or a veteran salesperson, you'll get something from it. But I'm going to go into my topic this week. which is basically the second chapter of my book, and that is the 6 factors of influence. I've come to the conclusion that there are 6 factors of influence when it comes to sales. And this is different from, sales strategy, sales techniques. This specifically hones in on the factors that are comprised of influencing someone to make a purchase. And the 6 factors that go into somebody about what their not necessarily their motivation is, but how they can be persuaded or how they can be influenced to make a purchase. So the 6 factors of influence are sense of urgency, fear of loss, the greed factor, the unique factor, indifference of attitude, and attitude of conviction. So that's what I've come to the conclusion that those are the 6 key points of influence when it comes to negotiating or interacting with a customer in a sales platform. The first, obviously, being the sense of urgency. Sense of urgency, limited time only. You have to buy now or this is going to expire. And people value what is scarce, right? So when time is limited, value increases naturally. If there's an expiring window to this deal, to this sale, if you only have a short window to take advantage of this specific sale, that will push people in the direction of buying. It also creates momentum, and it'll move prospects from thinking to action. Because again, if they don't hop on it now, they're going to lose the opportunity. So the example I would always give, or the example that I can give you for a sense of urgency specifically, would be like, let's say, for example, you're working for Ford selling cars and you're having a Labor Day weekend sale. This sale is contingent upon a certain time frame, and the rebates and incentives that are associated with that will expire after a certain amount of time. So this is a perfect example where somebody comes in and like, yeah, I'm just looking, I'm just shopping, sir. Mr. Customer, you take all the time you need. I certainly wouldn't expect you to move forward unless you weren't ready, but I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you we have a very short window for you to take advantage of this deal right now. These incentives, this price, this structure is based on all the current available incentives. And to be honest with you, they expire tonight at midnight. So this isn't to force your hand or to try to force you to into a sale, but unless you hop on the opportunity right now, you're not going to get this sale any other time. If you were my family, I would highly recommend you move forward right now. That's the mindset that you're conveying to the customer, that if they don't do it now, they're going to miss out on the sale. So deadlines, expirations, exclusivity, they drive decisions to be made now, not later, because they have to be made now. Otherwise, the deal is going to expire. So that's a real reason for a customer to move forward. And that's just my biggest takeaway with the first factor, which is sense of urgency. Factor number 2, fear of loss. The best example, physical example I can give for fear of loss before I get to these bullet points is if I'm showing somebody a car and we go on a test drive, they might be a little bit wishy-washy. When we come back from the test drive and we're looking at the numbers and they're looking at the car, I set the keys to that car on the table. If a fellow salesperson comes over and goes, hey, Joel, do you have the keys to that 2019 Infinity? Yeah, I sure do. They're right here. Yeah, I got somebody that wants to look at it. That is by definition the fear of loss. When the customer feels like if they don't take advantage of it right now, they're going to lose it, not because of a deadline expiration, but because somebody else is going to do it. That's the takeaway. And we would do that all the time in sales. My buddy Toby and I, when I was at Williamsburg Honda, I would tell him, look, when I get back from the test drive and I'm sitting down with numbers, come over, introduce yourself, and then ask me if you can have the keys because you have an appointment that's going to be coming in 10 minutes. That's the number one way to incorporate fear of loss with any customer that you have. And that is, again, if they don't hop on it, they're going to lose out. It's the takeaway. So people are wired to avoid loss more than to gain pleasure. And that's one of the key takeaways with the fear of loss. When buyers fear they're losing out, they move faster and they hesitate less. Highlight what they could lose: opportunities, price, availability, or advantages. But specifically, it involves with taking away that shiny object that they're looking at. I'm sorry, you can't have this anymore. And what do you do when you take away something? For example, if you have a baby, you give them a little toy, then you take it away. They might not even be interested in this toy at all. But the second you go to take it away, well, now they want it. That, in essence, is the fear of loss. And that is the second factor of the 6 factors of influence. So again, inaction comes at a cost. And this is a good quote here on the side of this diagram. Scarcity creates demand. Fear of loss creates decision. And that's from Seth Godin. So that's the second factor of influence. Going into the third, which is the greed factor. And when I did door-to-door sales, we always called this keeping up with the Joneses. The greed factor is everybody wants what everybody else has. So for example, if you cut your grass and you have your lawn looking super fresh, super sharp, what is your neighbor thinking to themselves right now? Oh, man, now I got to go cut my grass. I got to be fresh too. It's human nature to want what other people have. So that is in essence also the greed factor. And the way that I would convey that with car sales is I would tell somebody, okay, so they live in Brandermo, they live in my neighborhood. Hey, you guys, you wouldn't believe this is the hottest selling vehicle on the market right now. And in fact, you live off of Fox Ridge. Yeah, I had two of your neighbors in the past 3 months purchase a vehicle almost identical to this, different color, but because it's the hottest selling thing out there. Everybody is doing this because people don't want to be late to the party. So social proof drives desire. If they see it, other people with it, they want it. And again, people are naturally competitive and influenced by what others have. Status, recognition, and image play a huge role in buying decisions. So position your offer as what smart, successful people are already choosing. And if you can do that, you can do that very subtly, but you can do it consistently. You will find that, again, the greed factor is very, very important when pushing somebody to the point of maybe to a purchase. And again, you don't know which of the six factors of influence are going to actually get you the sale. So that's why I always try to incorporate all of them. And then when I can find that one factor of influence has more of a pull than one of the others, that's the factor that I focus on. But you have to highlight exclusivity, popularity, and the results fuel the desire. And I love this quote: "We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like." And that's from Dave Ramsey. And I don't think that could be more true when it comes to the third factor, which is the greed factor. And again, I mentioned all this in my book, How to Sell More Better. This is the second chapter. The fourth factor is the unique factor. So this is the opposite of the greed factor. This one isn't, hey, everybody else is getting this, you have to hop on. This is rare. This one is different. There aren't any others around that are like this. This is one of a kind. We're very lucky to have this vehicle in our inventory, very limited production, whatever the case may be. People pay more attention to what's unique and uncommon. And uniqueness creates curiosity. Curiosity creates conversation. So you need to highlight what makes your offer, product, or service different and better than the rest that's out there on the market. And if you can do that consistently, again, you will see results. Make them feel like they'll be one of the few who get access to something special. And when you can do this, you will find if somebody can hop on and they can take advantage of something that no one else has or no one else can get, it's human nature. That's the exclusivity factor. So for example, number one fast food chain in the country is Chick-fil-A, and they're closed 1 day a week. Yet they're number one consistently for gross, for customer service. They make more money. They sell more chicken sandwiches than any other fast food company out there. And why is it? And when do you want Chick-fil-A the most? Well, when you can't have it. So I think that directly ties in with the unique factor in the sense that people want what they can't have. And if something is rare and you can paint that picture, you will see consistent results. And you got to make them feel like they're, again, one of the few that's going to get access to something special. And in a world of sameness, different wins. And that's a quote from Tom Peters, which I pulled for this as well. Fifth factor is indifference of attitude. And this was probably one of my go-tos when I was in sales. The whole concept of the indifference of attitude, you're emotionally detached from beating the sale. Lowers the pressure while increasing authority. And it subconsciously conveys confidence. Again, the Kansas City Shuffle, that was the method that I developed, which gave me tremendous results in my sales career. And the mindset of the Kansas City Shuffle is, it doesn't matter to me whether you buy or not. I could care less. But you'd be absolutely crazy not to, based on all the information. But again, I don't care. The way that I operate, if I'm a consumer and I'm on the other end of the table and I'm buying something, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a golf cart, whether it's furniture. If the salesperson is trying to force me to do something against my will, or they're trying to force me in general, my natural knee-jerk reaction is to pull away and do the opposite. So if somebody's trying to get me to buy something, I don't care how good of a deal it is. If they're forcing me to do it, my natural inclination is to do the opposite, and I don't want to buy. I don't care. I don't want to buy from that business. I don't want to buy from that person. I want to come to the conclusion on my own. So with the indifference of attitude, if you convey that you don't need the sale, it automatically puts you in a position of power. Detachment eliminates desperation, which builds trust and respect. So by staying calm, by staying composed, by again staying indifferent, it puts you in control of the situation and in the dynamic of that negotiation. So if you focus on helping, not convincing, the right people will say yes. And confidence, which you convey, is magnetic. People follow those who aren't chasing them, period. And the more you care, the less they care. And that's a quote from Grant Cardone, which again ties in perfectly. The last factor of influence is the attitude of conviction, which is the opposite of the indifference of attitude. And again, this is the second part of the Kansas City Shuffle. I don't care if you buy or not, but Mr. Customer, to be honest, you'd be absolutely crazy not to based on all the information. So this conveys absolute certainty. And when you can convey certainty, again, in any negotiation, if there's enough rapport, whomever is certain will always influence the other person, period. So this closes the gap between information and action. And I just love that quote. And I talk about this in my book, How to Sell More Better. This closes the gap between information and action. And that is by speaking with conviction, utter, absolute conviction. And there's a difference between being pushy and speaking with conviction. Speaking with conviction is certainty. And if you're certain in your offer and your value, the transformation you deliver, it automatically. Conviction eliminates doubt and objections before they arise. If you speak with belief and power and clarity, it will inspire action in a customer. Because again, if they like you and they trust you, somebody's highly more likely to listen to you and to be influenced by you if they trust you. But if you're absolute certain, again, whoever in any negotiation, if there's enough rapport, whomever is most certain will always influence the other person, and this could not be true. And it bridges the gap from knowing to doing with decisive communication. So again, people don't follow what you say, they follow what you believe. And that's from Tony Robbins. So again, just to kind of sum this up, the 6 factors of influence: sense of urgency, fear of loss, the greed factor, the unique factor, indifference of attitude, and attitude of conviction. Again, you don't know which one is going to be the tipping point, which pushes that customer to purchase now. But as long as you consistently push all 6, and then once you find that pressure point, you know how to move and how to elaborate to make it happen again. So now I'm going to pass the mic on to Josh. I'm going to stop screen sharing. Boom. All right, Josh, we're going to put you on right now, buddy. All right, hold on. I want to spotlight you for everybody. All right, Josh, the mic is yours, my friend.
Hey guys, thanks for logging in and thanks for watching. I mean, ultimately, there's a handful of things on these 6 factors that is supposed to also help with each personality type that you're speaking to and that you hold within yourself. Because some of these things seems confusing, even when going through them. It's like, hold on, you said this one and then this one. It's everything all at once when you're talking to clients. We have to be a chameleon to adapt to each clientele. Like I said in the previous one, you have to mirror just a quick hit on increasing your sales guaranteed, mirror your client, right? So we have to be a chameleon. And a lot of these things is a numbers game. We all know this is a numbers game. This is one of the best pieces of information that I had in measuring my own success and understanding where I'm wasting time and money with my own sales techniques. And there's 4 ways of a deal to have. There's 4 outcomes basically for every single deal: win fast, win slow, and lose slow. Basically, if you have a deal in front of you and someone walks in, and everybody's had that situation at least at one point in their career. Hey guys, I'm here to buy a car. No, I already know which one. I want that one that's on the lot. I saw that it's here. I want that one. I'm ready. I'm qualified. Here you go. Don't ask any other questions. Sell it. No more needed. All right, cool. Let's go. Roll with it. Win fast. You get that out the door, and then you're back on the floor ready for another one. So that one was basically no time out of your day. Then you have a win slow. That's that client who needs to shop, needs to look, go here, look on the internet. Hold on, I'll be back. Wait, I got to talk to my wife. All these obstacles, which is a huge drag and a anchor of your time. While you're sitting here running around with them doing the many different tasks, you'll ultimately get that commission. You'll ultimately get that sale. But that slow sale, how many people have passed by in the meantime, which it's still a win. But how do we measure that? Lose fast. All right, I'm coming in, I'm buying a phone. And it's like, nope, I don't need nothing. I just came in because I was next door, just wanted to see what you had. Poke it in. All right, thank you. See ya. All right, wasted hardly any of your time. You're on the floor for the next gig. Lose slow. That's that individual who did all the research. You've invested that time. You think it's a grand slam. They fed you every line in the book and they just played you. Or you have just drug out in the hopes of the desperation. Maybe you've had a bad month and you need that sale. So you're just hanging on with your tight grip. And all in the meanwhile, it's the worst kind of sale because you just missed every sale beyond you, all the things that came in beside you, and you didn't ultimately win. So the best kind of sale, obviously, win fast. Those are just great. The next one, the next best thing to do is lose fast. Win fast, lose fast. Some say win slow, but no, no, no. Lose fast. You can move on and then you can go to your next win. The next one in line is win slow, obviously, because you still won, and then lose slow. If you can measure those times, if you can adapt to your client, if you can use these 6 factors of influence, and yes, it is influence, because ultimately we know what's best for our clients because we've listened, we've mimicked, we've also put ourselves in their shoes to understand and hopefully ask enough questions that know what they need to be able to position that for these individuals so that they don't miss out on that deal. And ultimately, we got to read our clients so that we know we can win fast. So those 4 measures to kind of see each deal as it goes, you need to learn how to recognize that faster and faster of where it's headed. So we understand. I mean, I've heard all the time in the industry, buyers are liars. If we kind of address that and understand that up front, you ask enough questions, people end up tripping up on their lies anyway. So you kind of pull out the minutia and you kind of feed through all that to figure out who's real and who's not, whether it's a fast or slow deal. So those are things to recognize and to move these deals down the line of how long it's actually going to take. That'll be the best increase of your time, the best increase of your sales. Because if you break it down, I know exactly how much per hour I'm worth. And if you don't know your worth, I challenge you right now to figure that out. Know how much either that you want, and if you're brand new, what's your goals? If you don't have goals, write them down. But what is your ultimate goal at the end of the year? And divide that into the hourly work schedule, the 52 weeks in a year and the 40 hours a week, and how much are you worth per hour? When you quantify that, you realize how much time you're wasting. All this stuff right here on knowledge base and building that level of items that you can use for your sales technique, only add, this is the off time, this doesn't count. This is just to feed that arsenal, to build it up so that you do go into work and you know what you're worth because you know what you're holding. So all these different tools in the books with these 6 factors so that you know how to influence each client will help you get across the finish line either faster and double your sales in the day and ultimately reach your goal. But definitely find your goals, understand the deal, whether it's one of the 4, and then learn how to read your clients. And that's the most important parts. And then we can kind of break in on the next weeks to come on some other items that that you can use with maybe not just car sales, but in any form or fashion of sales that we can influence or use these 6 factors in real life settings for those who have questions at the end or even can write and say, hey, what about these objections? What about these situations? So something that we can address even moving forward. But yeah, those are my that's my biggest items to take away today is those to learn your sale. You're muted.
Sorry, my bad. I was gonna say that was absolutely beautiful. So for me, the one that I directly relate with and I hated the most was the win slow. When you've spent an entire, not just one afternoon, but several afternoons with somebody, several evenings with somebody, text message after text message, email after email, and then they ghost you, or you finally get a hold of them and they're like, I bought somewhere else. It is the most nerve-wracking thing on the face of the planet. I would much rather lose fast and just brush, get somebody out of the way so I can get on to my next one. So beautiful, absolutely. I could not agree with those four anymore. That was beautiful, man, beautiful. And also the Winslow. I can't tell you how many times I've been working a customer in my career, and all my coworkers are like, "Dude, they're not going to buy. This is the 12th time they've been here. You're like the sixth salesperson they've had in 2 years. Good luck." But I work them. I cover my ground. I leave no stone unturned, and then eventually, inevitably, I sell them. And it might be a slow win, but a win is a win, baby. Either way. So beautiful, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Shelby, I'm going to pass the reins on to you. Let's replace that spotlight. All right, buddy, you got the mic, Shelby.
Can you hear me? All right. So I was thinking about the the different segments of this, and I want to give my take on it. So, sense of urgency. I believe this shows the customer that you're working for them, right? So if you've ever seen a salesperson just kind of like, it's just another thing for them to got to go do, right? So what I used to do when I was selling cars is if there was a car that I was going to go get for them, I would run to go get that car. And if I had to go get another one, I would run to go get that other car. And it was an expression from me showing my customer, hey, I'm working for you, even though it's just simple as running. No other salesperson on my lot would ever run, but I would. And it was something that was unique about me. But it shows the customer that you're looking for this opportunity. It means something to you and you want to work fast for them. Setting urgency also moves the deal along so you can kind of set the pace or set the momentum of the deal, right? The customer knows once you set expectations, hey, this is what we're going to do, and then you start following through with that, and then the customer will start moving along with you. You start pulling them into your momentum, right? And the customer will know that they need to make a decision fast. They'll tell you when they need to pump the brakes. Listen to them, pump them a little bit, but you still want to keep that ball rolling, that urgency. Because I can tell you this, I would always want to close fast. Customers always come up and they were like, hey, this is the car I want. I don't need to test drive it. No. We're going to test drive it. And here's why. We went over that last week, right? But it was quick and it was easy. All my customers, I would set the momentum with them. Fear of loss. So this is the one I really like to hone in on because it's always utilizing your takeaway. So what I would do is I would take it away just to see how much interest my customer has, how sticky they were to that deal or that well, for my case, for that car, right? Because if I'm trying to sell them, I'll use CDGR. If I'm trying to sell them a limited, if that's the one they came in and asked for, and I take them away and pull them down to a Laramie, hey, this has everything that you want, but it has these things. It's going to save you a little bit of extra money. It'll probably save us about $100 extra a month because you got to remember the first thing that I'm going to do is negotiate with their money, not mine, right? So their money is bringing them down a couple trim levels. And when they feel like they're missing out on something, it's always the same question. Well, what do I not get? Okay, well, now, first off and foremost, what I'm going to hit on is going to be the components of what they told me they're really interested in. I'll say, well, you don't get the 14-inch screen. You got to go down to the 12. And you get different leather seats. You don't get ventilated seats. You're not going to get the sunroof. You can pay extra in that. You can't get that in the Laramie, but it's going to be a little bit extra. So I'm taking away, I'm giving. I'm taking away, I'm giving. Right. And it's their decision now to move down or to stay in that area. So they're the one that's creating the loss because I'm letting them know, hey, we can save you a little bit extra money, but this is the question I would always ask them. So, and this just popped into my head. So I would say, hey, it's up to you. It's on however you want to spend your money. So either you want that extra one, that's going to be an extra $2,500, whatever the case may be. Let's say it's a panoramic sunroof, right? So I'd ask them, hey, you got to ask yourself what's more important to you. Is it the equipment or is it the money? That's it. Because I can't give it to you for free. And you know that. Also, in the fear of loss, introduce similar products that that take away these options. So I pretty much rolled into that one. Greed factor. This is underlying to most type A personalities when they come in and they've got money to spend and credit. People want to be or if people can't be exclusive, they want to be first, right? So this is a great example of, look at the Apple store on the night before a product drops, or when we used to buy video games in the stores in Target, there would be lines outside the building. Same thing with, I don't know if you guys remember, like Furbies. Remember that? It was the same thing with those things. And then your indifference of attitude. So something can help with this, and it gets rid of your commission breath, right? So if you're really writing your customer and you're like, are you going to buy now? Are you going to buy now? Are you going to buy now? Well, Joel, I don't know. I just need to think about it for just a little bit longer. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you have to make the decision today? You don't have to buy the car today, do you? That really surprises the customer. It kind of takes them back, because they're like, well, hold on a second. I know I want to buy today. It also helps with the urgency thing. And then attitude of conviction. Now, this is where most salespeople completely lack. So about 82% of all salespeople never ask for the sale, right? So knowing that, and there may be a different couple of other ways that you can ask for the sale. You can kind of assume the sale, right? Or you can ask for the sale, you can beg for the sale if you're asking for it. But once a customer says that they're ready to move forward, now here comes the fun part. We're going to talk about numbers, right? So always believe in your numbers, period. And I just got done with a training class. I think I had 5 salespeople, and they are all from, I would say they've all come from like minimum wage or just a little bit above, like maybe making $20 an hour. And them looking at $1,000 car payment is like telling them that we just landed on Mars. Like, are you kidding me? There is no way I can talk to somebody about $1,000 payment. First question you ask them, are you making the payment? No. Okay, let's go ahead and present. This is what this is going to cost. And the first thing I always tell them is, like, whatever the price of the car is, look, this is a $60,000 car. This is a $90,000 car. Do you think it's going to be $400 a month? Well, no. Right. Unless you put $70,000 down, I might be able to get you a $400 payment, right? Believe the numbers, believe in your product, obviously, believe your numbers whenever you present them to them, because if you don't believe them, then you're going to absolutely take all the confidence in the customer out, and you're just going to squander that deal. Maintain eye contact with them. Don't be creepy, but when you're talking to them, you want to look at them and you want to acknowledge every participant at the table, even the third base coach, mom, dad, somebody that's there. You always want to involve them, believing in your numbers while you're doing your presentation. And also, I'm sorry, Joel, you used this just a little bit ago. To be honest, you can suck the trust right out of a deal when you say, to be honest. Never ever say, to be honest. To be honest with you, well, were you not the entire time? So you're now being honest with me, right? So that's my take on those. And then just a quick add, if you guys don't mind. And I know you guys have heard this. I don't know who coined the phrase, but luck. Got to use that, guys. Luck is where opportunity meets preparation, right? So I always thought this was the dumbest saying in the world until I started experiencing the opportunity not being prepared. And that also brings me to my next point, is failure. How many times do you have to fail till you get it, right? So I got to the point, and I'm very competitive. I played semi-pro baseball. I played football, junior college football, all the way up. Highly competitive. And when I got into sales, it obviously carried over because I wanted to be the best. I wanted to make the most money. I wanted to be number one. But I always saw failure as a bad thing. Like somebody saying no. I hated rejection, and that's not good for sales. And I hated to fail. But then over time, and listening to obviously different kind of I guess what you would say influencers now, is that I need to harness that failure, and I need to harness where or how I feel and where to put it, right? So what I started doing was I started to role play and train constantly. Joel and I, we did it every single time I went to go see him. And I always knew what to train on because I could look at his numbers and I could see where his deficiencies were before I walked into the building. And I was talking to somebody about this today. Remember Jesse Cash? He came to see me today. So we were talking about when I was with my other company, and I would not have to prepare when I made my rounds because I could go to each finance manager and look up their numbers and see where their deficiency was. And I knew exactly how to train on it. But we would train all the time, and it just made me better. Like I think I'm backing up finance right now. I'm running like $3,700 a car, 80% or 88% warranty penetration. Yeah, I'm killing it. But it's because all I did was train for 7 years, train. And I set the box for you a couple of times if you don't remember. But you always want to review and discuss your lost opportunities and harness that failure. See what you could have done better. Where are my areas of opportunities? What did I do really well? And I can make that a little bit better. But when you role play and you train and you do after action review, you need to let that failure sink in. And for me, I always used to say, you know what? I don't want to feel like this again. I know I could have done better. I know I stumbled at this point. That's where I could have done, just if I would have said it just this way. If you're a real salesperson, you replay it in your mind after on your drive home and you're like, oh, I missed that. Now that's always set me up for a follow-up call too, because I'm always thinking about my follow-up, who I have to call tomorrow and give them a reason why to come back and buy. So anyways, luck is where opportunity meets preparation. And that's all I got.
So absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. And yes, I remember multiple times you sitting in the box for me so I could have my day off because they fired Jose on like my third day because my numbers were so astronomical. And I can't thank you enough for that. 100% appreciate it. But a couple things to touch on that. I think something you said about constructive criticism. So many salespeople are not open to constructive criticism. They take it as a personal attack. And I feel like if you're going to be very efficient and you're going to be deadly at sales, you have to be open to criticism because criticism is what makes you better. And I remember lots of times when you would come and visit me and I'd be in the F&I office, same thing. You would know exactly based on my numbers what I needed training on, where I needed help, where I needed to be refined a little bit more so that I could grow and be better. And I always call it having a white belt mentality. In doing martial arts for the majority of my adult life, that's something that we always talked about is having a white belt mentality. You always can learn more. You never think that you're the best or that that you can't learn anything because you can always learn more. And I love that. The other thing that you touched on was role playing. So role playing is so critical to becoming a deadly awesome salesperson because if you don't role play, you don't know how to handle those objections in real time. You could have all the word track in the world, but if you don't know how to handle how to handle those objections in real time and how to play with it's meaningless. And something I discovered recently, and I talk about this in my book, using Chat GPT voice mode for role play. And I see we got Rex on the call right now, and he worked with me at Sheedy 40. He was one of my top guys. But what I did one morning meeting for a Saturday morning meeting was I opened up the Chat GPT voice prompt, and the prompt that I gave it was something like, okay, you're a type A personality business owner, you run an HVAC company, you have no time for nonsense. I want you to give me an objection, pretend that I just presented you numbers, give me an objection, and then give me a letter grade from A to F and grade me on my response and how I handled that objection. And this was in front of the entire sales force. So I had no idea what it was going to come up with. And I handled it in real time. And I think I got like a B plus or something like that. But you can use AI as an awesome resource to role play if you don't have anybody in front of you. Because to be honest, the vast majority of managers out there in the automotive realm, I feel like get very complacent and they get comfortable. And I call it manageritis. And it's like, yeah, you have aspirations when you first get into management. Oh, we're going to train all the time. Oh, we're going to constantly do retraining. We're going to constantly role play. Then you get in that seat, you get a handful of stuff on your plate on a daily basis, and you get away from the role playing and you get away from the stuff that actually made you as deadly and as good as you were. So I feel like role play is key. And I urge everybody, open up. Everybody has Chat GPT or some sort of conversational AI. There's a ton out there. Open it up and try it, regardless of whatever field of sales you're in. Or as opposed to you handling the objection, give the AI the objection. Tell ChatGPT, hey, how would you handle this objection? I need more time to think about it. And it will give you 3 or 4 really awesome examples that you can memorize in your word track and then use that in role playing with your management, with your fellow salespeople. And if you're a salesperson and you have a manager who's not going to take initiative to role play, lead by example. Grab a couple of salespeople. Hey, man, you got a quick second? Hey, how would you handle this objection? And then run with it. And I think if you can do that effectively and efficiently, you will become the best absolute salesperson you can. Because I feel like the reason of my success, I was so ingrained in word track and role playing, and I got that from my old GM, Matt Perry. We would constantly role play any given time. If he was walking by my desk, hey, Joel, how you doing? He'd take off his glasses. Wait, where am I? He'd take off his glasses and he'd chew on the end of it. Hey, if a customer says, I need to go talk to my wife, what would you say? And in real time, I would have to come up with the objection or how to handle the objection. And when you do it consistently, you do it enough, you're just going to get better. And then the other thing you mentioned was being an athlete and how it translates to sales. And I find that not every time, but the vast majority of former athletes that played on some sort of collegiate level always translate to being a good salesperson because you have that competitive nature, you have that drive of always wanting to get better. And it doesn't even have to be on a collegiate level. Like me, I never played college anything because I didn't go to college, but just playing sports my entire life, it always gave me that drive to want to get better. And I feel like that 100% conveys in a sales environment. So now we're going to open up the Q&A portion of it. If you do have any objections or any questions or anything like that, you can feel free to add it. It looks like we have one right here. This is from Green Rock LLC. How do you handle the objection that rate is too high? So one thing I will tell you with that is that's not really an objection. That's more of a statement. An objection is like, I need to go talk to my wife. Or if they tell you, yeah, I'm not going to buy. That rate is absolutely astronomical. I will not buy at that rate. That's an objection. But if somebody says that rate is too high, that's a statement. And the word track I would always use, and I would always tell somebody, yeah, you're right. First thing I would do is agree. That is a high rate. However, you don't marry the rate. I would tell people this isn't your permanent rate. This isn't your permanent payment. But at this point in time, it's the only approval we have. And this is what I would tell you if you were my family. And that's what I would always tell people. But again, sincerity is the key to influence. If you can be sincere and you can be authentic with your delivery and you mean what you say and you say what you mean, and people actually believe that you're genuinely trying to help them, it will 100% influence them. But I would tell people, look, what most of my customers do, because let's be honest, you need a car. You have to have transportation. The good news is we've secured an approval based on the structure of the deal. This isn't your forever rate. This isn't your forever payment. What I mean by that is what most of my customers do in 10 to 12 months, once you've made those payments on time like you're going to, your credit is exponentially higher than it was when you started right now. On average, your credit goes up 80 to 100 points based on making those routine payments 10 to 12 months down the line. At that point in time, I would recommend go and refinance. Cut the rate in half, cut the payment in half. Go to a local credit union, go to a local bank. And at that point, you're going to qualify for a much better rate and you're going to decrease the payment drastically. And now you're not going to be paying the $600 a month. Or if somebody would tell me,
that payment is way too high, I would tell them
the only way that matters is if you're planning on keeping this for the full term of the loan. Meaning that there's no scenario, I don't know why we have echo going on here, but there's no scenario. Hold on one second. There's no scenario where the only way that rate matters is if you're planning on making all 72 payments on time and not paying it off early. Most people will pay off this loan a little bit sooner, and by doing so, the rate becomes irrelevant. The biggest contributing factor to the payment is the rate, and I get it, but don't marry the rate. Just date the rate, and if you can do that, then you'll be good to go. That's something I would always tell people on some level or some frequency to overcome the rate objection. All right, let's see. Looks like we got one more here. Nope. Does anybody else have any other rate or any other objections they would like to handle? Shelby, Josh, you got anything? Well, here we go. How about people who need money down but have none? Okay, that's a very good one. So that's tough. If somebody, if an approval is contingent upon money down and they have no money down, you don't have a deal. Sometimes, in the words of Steve Dollars, we just need a little bit of participation to put this deal over the curb. And I would tell people there's very few deals I found that we couldn't put together with enough participation. Participation comes in many different forms. Yes, a lot of times it comes in the form of cash down payment. Sometimes it comes in the form of a qualified cosign. Or if you get one of those like left-handed turn downs where it's like an approval, but you need 90% down, you just got to sell it as the best thing since sliced bread. Guys, great news. We just need a little bit of participation and we can put this thing together. And they go, okay, well, what's the participation? 90% cash down. Woo! You act like it's the best thing since sliced bread.
So
Most people
that's
aren't going to have 90% cash down. But I would
Joe.
say if when I do get to that point, I would always ask people, well, do you have somebody that can loan you the money? Or FYI, if you're in sales, there's about 12 different payday loan advance apps you can download. Dave, Moneylion, there's another one, Exact. All these apps you can download, or as long as you upload your most recent paycheck stub and it shows that you have income, you can get $500 floated to you off the top.
Another thing I'd like to add on that, Joel, that's a great opportunity. Once you go down those lines of options and they're exhausted, ultimately you can't drain blood from a stone. So that's a good opportunity to understand it's a lose fast. You can kick the can down the street as much as you want. And how long do you work that deal to you? We just can't bleed a stone. So it's a good opportunity to recognize that could be a lose fast deal.
That's why we pre-qual.
100%. What was that, Shelby?
I said that's why we pre-qual.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would always tell people, guys, the approval is based on the advance. The advance is the structure that the bank is looking at for the approval. So sometimes they require a little bit of cash down. If the bank did require you to put some cash down, what would you be comfortable putting down? And then they tell me the dollar amount. And they would say, okay, and if you had to step up and they required a little bit more, what could you go up to? Oh, well, I guess it could go up to $750. And if it absolutely meant that we had an approval to secure, could you step up to 1,000? I would always try to stretch people to see exactly what the max ceiling was for what we could do. But that's all good stuff there. And then Brian asked me the right question. Shelby?
Yeah. So, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I also get those, they need money down. Obviously, we're dealing with subprime, right? Most cases. So the other thing I would do is I would switch cars on them, because one may book out better than the other. Because if the bank wants to see it 90% and they're not actually requiring the money down, I can go ahead and switch them to a different unit where we're actually really good in it, and I can do it at 90% LTV and get them crossed over that line too. So you always got to look at other options, not just that car. And unfortunately, what happens to a subprime customer when they hear you're approved? Now they want to get choosy, right? So you got to have them understand that you pay for your credit, right? You get what you pay for. So if you decide that you're not going to pay on time, or you're not going to pay your bills, or you're going to overextend yourself, the bank is going to try to mitigate risk as much as they possibly can. They may want to see some participation from you on this particular vehicle is a higher risk. But I've got a 1989 LeBaron out back where they'll go ahead and approve you right away, sir. And the rate's even lower. So
Dude.
always remember that you got to have that when you're walking your lot and you see those cars at the $8, $9, $10,000 car, you can ask your managers, hey, how are we on this to the book? Because I can use this as a switch car for a customer that comes in on a 2024 or it doesn't exist, 2023 Challenger, and I can't get them in that except for this Yugo. At least I can get them wheels, right?
100%, man. And that also goes back into, as a salesperson and a sales manager, knowing your inventory, knowing what you have that does book out exceptionally well. Because again, the bank is basing the structure of the loan not off the amount we're selling the car for. Most of the banks, especially secondary banks, are basing the structure of the loan off the trade-in value of the car using a JD Power book out, JD Power. So a lot of times there's a huge deviation, especially the older the car, the more of the deviation you have. But every now and then you'll get lucky. I remember we had a 2013 Kia Soul This was a couple, like 3 months ago. 2013 Kia Soul that booked out like a champ. We were selling it for 89.95. Book out on that thing was like 12.5. So I mean, that was, it's just every now and then you'll just get a book out that doesn't make sense. That again, by having that switch car, and that's exactly the process that we did to sell it. Customer was on like a 2019 Nissan Maxima. Bank wanted $3,200 down. We switched them to a 2013 Kia Soul, but because it booked out so well, guess what? Now we didn't need the down payment. So kudos to you. Yeah, you always have to have those switch vehicles. And then I got AJD in the chat who said, "Are you seeing success working banks hard, or is this less effective today than in years past, in your opinion?" So my opinion on that, you have to know your banks. And it always helps. I would always try to become friends with all the buyers of the banks. Like when I worked at Ford with Ford Credit, Ford is very forgiving and you have to know your bank. So Ford will approve deals that even secondary banks like Westlake and Exeter, Santander would turn down. If you have good payment history, at least on one of your credit files, and you have a contact at the bank, my boy Rob, oh, forget about it. If I needed an approval, I knew Rob's extension by heart. I would always get Rob on the phone and I would say, "Hey, look, man, I'm trying to put something together here." And I would always try to sell to the bank and make it make sense to them. They might be like, "Yeah, well, they're slow pay on their current open auto." Yeah, that's true, but they had a back injury, they couldn't work. If you look at their credit file now, they've had perfect payment history for the past 8 months. And I try to sell it to the bank. I mean, the customer is going to try to sell you. Your salesperson is going to try to sell you as a manager. It's my job to try to now sell the lender at the bank as to why this makes sense. And I try to give them all the reasons for why it would. And I was like, "Guys, we're dropping in payment $100 a month. Again, the loan to value ratio is fantastic. This car books out like a champ. Come on, hook your boy up. I know you got a quota you're trying to hit this month." And I would try to sell the buyer at the bank to make it make sense to them. But yeah, I think you got to work your bank. If you're not working your bank hard, again, I'm a firm believer in leaving no stone unturned. And that not only involves me with the customer and my needs analysis, not only with me and the customer, if I have a structure based on an approval, based on certain cash down, I want to explore every option. If that doesn't work, do we have a co-signer, mom, dad, uncle, aunt, grandma, grandpa, anybody? We try to get everybody involved. Or me working the lender and working the buyer of the bank and trying to get the best possible structure I can, or just trying to find a way to get an approval. And again, if that lender is like, "Yeah, there's no way this structure is working," well, I would always walk it down. Say, "Okay," or walk it up. Let's say that I had 500 down. Can you rescore it with 500 down? No, it's still a red air, still a red. Or, okay, cool. What about 1,000 down? And I would incrementally work it up until that LTV made sense enough where we had an approval. And again, like Josh said, a lot of times you're going to be winning, you're going to be losing fast. If the customer absolutely has no money, no investment, no participation, yeah, there's only so much you can do. But again, buyers are liars. And I've had several people tell me, "No, I have no money down whatsoever." And then I come over back to the desk, "Hey guys, great news. With just 1,500 down, I'm going to go get this thing gassed up for your ride home." And then sure enough, out of nowhere, here comes $1,500 cash down. So don't leave any stone unturned. Make sure that you're working your resources to the fullest. Josh, Shelby, do you guys have anything else you want to add to this before we close up tonight's session?
I got one.
Go for it.
All right. So, and I just had the situation happen to me on Saturday and today. So, a customer comes in and she's a first time buyer, 25 years old, just getting her life straight. And she is I think she's a 588, and her father was a 620. And the best approval they had was through Cap One at 24%, only can get Gap. And it was like $420 for a warranty. It ain't happening, right? Sign her up. And I'm like, as I'm signing documents, she's like, "Oh, wait, my dad's name's wrong." And I'm like, "Oh, really? Okay, well, I missed that, but I don't have his driver's license because he's out of state," right? So I do that and I go, "Well, here, look at the title app, make sure that's all correct too." So she looks and she's like, "No, my address is wrong. It needs to be this, this, and this." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Let me go ahead and send that off to the bank because I know what's going to happen right now." Yep. So I correct everything, send it over, and it auto approves right away and drops the rate to 19%. I go into, what do they call that thing?
Auto Navigator.
Yeah, Dealer Navigator. I go in there and I put in the 1,200 for gap, and then hit for the warranty, 2620. And I'm like, done. So I restructured it today, and I texted the customer and I was like, hey, listen, great news. I was able to put a warranty in there for an extra 20 bucks. Let's go ahead and knock this out. I'll go ahead and send it through e-contract, and then your father can e-contract too. Super simple, super easy. So right away, just turn it all around. And it's all because the salesperson was not paying attention, not listening to the customer. And then, of course, I don't have a driver's license from the customer because they have a New Jersey driver's license. So we couldn't verify income that, or the address that way. So I still got to prove POR, but it's still putting the right information on there will go further than negotiating with any bank. Got to get the right info.
I love that, man. I love that. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Josh, you got anything you want to add? Any closing thoughts?
No, that's another thing right there where if you win too fast, don't just move along. Definitely be attentive to your clients and understand you're asking the right questions. That's everything. Asking the questions is going to ultimately what we're going to refer back to each time. But yeah, recognizing the deals don't go winning too fast, missing that opportunity, because that could have been a lose fast really quickly.
Mhm.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, again, I just want to thank everybody for hopping on tonight. We actually had several people hop on and then hop off. AJD, thank you for joining. Brian, Shelby, Rex, Josh, appreciate you guys. Join us next week, Monday night, 9 p.m. Next week, we're also going to be doing a live stream via Facebook using this Riverside app that Josh was telling me about. So we're definitely going to have a lot more people packed in this room. But I want to thank everybody for hopping on and joining tonight. And we'll see you guys next week. Everybody have a great night. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks. All right, thanks.